I'm hardly objective on the subject of either women, Yentl or Barbra. They're very tied together, however. I'm so pleased that you're doing this, Kat. I think this kind of shining of a light on women of accomplishment in not only this industry, but industry in general, has somehow faded. There was a period, certainly in the late 60s, early 70s, when things were most dire in a way, where the women's movement had a kind of steam that I think has gone out of it. And I think you're quite right, that this is a time where many things are being revivified in the country because of the new presidency, I think. And I think we have to take advantage of the fact that we can talk about change, and we can talk about hope, and change of long overdue change for women and women's rights, not only here, but all around the world. And I think this is a great step in that direction in terms of our industry. To talk about Yentl and to talk, I just noticed the roses floating in the fountain. Barbra would love that. She'd love that. This picture was, I told somebody today, was a labor of love for Alan and I, and I think for everybody connected with the movie. From the crew all the way up to the cast and the creative people behind the camera. It was a story of Isaac Bashevis singer. I'm sure most of you know the story or have seen the film, but excuse me, but I'll talk about it for a moment, because the parallels of the story, and I think that's of course what drew Barbra and everybody to the film in the first place, the parallels to Barbra's problems to get this film made are quite astounding. It's a story of a young woman in 19th century Eastern Europe in a little town where women were proscribed. They were not allowed to be educated. They were not allowed to be taught to read. This was part of the customs of the Orthodox Jewish religion to which she was born. And somehow, perhaps because her mother died when she was very young, this character I'm talking about, she had this very strong relationship and bond with her father, who was a teacher, a scholar. And in secret, he taught his daughter. And as she grew, her thirst for knowledge grew alongside her. And when it became time for her to really proceed to some kind of higher education, that became impossible when she outgrew the little secret lessons that she was having with her father. Her father dies, and she dresses in the clothes of a young boy and goes off to study in a seminary. Brave, fearless. All of this sounds a lot like Barbra to me as I talk about it, particularly in the struggle that she had to make this picture. The studios were not interested in making a little picture, because it started out to be just a little picture. The template was, I think, a Czech picture called Shop on Main Street. I think it was Czech, I'm not sure, but that's the film that Barbra loved and thought that this story would lend itself to that kind of movie. So it started out like that in her head, but they were not interested in a little movie about a girl's struggle in the 18th century Poland or Czechoslovakia. So she had great difficulty until we all decided that it should perhaps be a musical, because from the moment she does disguise herself as a boy, as a young man, and embarks on this journey, there's nobody with whom she can share all the things that are happening to her, all the things that she's feeling, particularly since she has had to disguise the most essential thing about her gender, her sexuality. So we thought that this was a wonderful opportunity to write a kind of musical inner journey that would parallel the journey of the character in the film. Once it was established that she was going to sing in the movie, suddenly there was interest. I mean, I think it then became a project that they could see dollar signs and they understood. Then it became a struggle because it was going to be shot on location. It was going to be shot in period. And though it did not have a budget that would sound like anything to us today, 25 years ago, it was still a lot of money to entrust to a first-time woman director, an actress, no less, a singer. But she was nothing if not persistent. Nothing's impossible was the tagline of the picture and was also the mantra of the making of this movie. As somebody who has known her since she's 18 years old and has watched her career and watched the development as a woman and as an activist in the full sense of the word, I don't know anybody in her position with her visibility who has taken the kinds of unpopular stands along the way. I mean, in the 60s, she was very outspoken, but she didn't get the coverage then that some of the men did. But she was as outspoken in the civil rights movement as any male actor or performer that I knew. And certainly in the women's movement, and certainly in the Vietnam War movement, and anti-Vietnam War movement, and has taken stands for candidates and political views, and I think her celebrity and the general aura of controversy that surrounds her always has made a lot of people in the press and in the business kind of a little standoffish about handing her the accolades and the honors that I think she deserves. I'm so grateful that you're shining a light on the release of this DVD. I know that most of you probably have seen the movie. This is the director's cut. This is the way Barbra had hoped the movie would come out. So there were certain things in it that were not in the released version of the movie. But accompanying it in this 2 DVD set is a separate disc, which is Barbra speaking about the process of the movie, speaking about why she wanted to make it, and there's footage which she shot with a little Sony video camera, and which is primitive. But she shot and rehearsed and blocked all the musical numbers, for example. It was happened to be done in our living room, and anybody that came by was cast immediately into a role. People came to the house, knocked on the door, and suddenly they were thrust. The candle was just there. coat was put on them, and they were in a procession a moment later. All this is on this video. But it's extraordinary. She cut it now, intercut this black and white, shaky little video with the way it finally emerged in the film. They're intercut. And what's extraordinary, even to Alan and to me, who were so intimately involved with this every step of the way, that she really saw every frame of this movie in her head as far back as that day in the living room. Because what emerged was pretty much what she saw then. I think you're in for a treat watching this again. I don't think it's tarnished in any way. I think perhaps it's more relevant than it ever was when I think about the struggle of women throughout the world. And it's not just women. I think women have been a kind of a stand-in for a lot of minorities who have experienced and unfortunately are still experiencing various kinds of struggle and discrimination. So I'm happy you're going to see this picture. You're probably not going to see the accompanying DVD, but if you get the DVD package, you'll see that. And that's the treat, I think, that accompanies this movie. I'm happy to be here. I'm thrilled that Kat is doing this series. Her father must be very proud of her. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now if I can get back to where I was, it'll be good.